episode 170, Ironman Chattanooga with Annette Melecio. Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Today I'm talking with Annette Melecio about her recent race at Ironman Chattanooga that took place in Tennessee. And this race took place on September 30th, 2018, where she had a time of 13 hours, 44 minutes, and 1 second. The swim was canceled this year due to high water and recent flooding in the area. Welcome to the show, Annette. I look forward to hearing about your race at Chattanooga.
Nice to hear from you, too.
Nice. So what made you enter this race?
I actually only entered because I was supposed to do it with somebody that I met on the Pathetic website. So I'm active duty Army, and I was stationed in California, and I had reached out to the Pathetic website, and I said, if there's anybody in the Chicagoland area, let me know who you guys train with and coaches. And so one of my, the girl that I signed up with reached out to me, and we ended up using the same coach, and she talked me into the race, and that's how I got caught up with Chattanooga.
Nice. So how was your training going into this race? I know it's your third full, right?
It was my third full, and it's actually my third full in 10 months.
Wow.
Like I said, I wasn't planning on doing this race. I had did Arizona, and that was supposed to be a one and done. And then I got orders to PCS, which basically means the Army was moving me from California to Illinois. And so my team was like, oh, let's do Santa Rosa together as like your last, race with us and a goodbye. So I ended up doing Santa Rosa, and I was like, okay, now I'm taking a break. And then when I, got in contact with the person that I was going to do the race with, she's like, oh, it'll be great. So I can introduce you, to the tri community. And so I said, oh, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So yeah, I did IMAZ in November, Santa Rosa in May, and then Chattanooga in 2 weeks ago.
Wow. That's a lot in a little bit of time.
It is.
So as far as your training going into this race, how did your training differ going into Chattanooga versus the other two?
I was pretty much burnt out by the time this race came, and I didn't necessarily dedicate myself like I did to the other two, but I did put in more time on the bike, and I did a little bit more running than I normally would do. So that's the biggest change, I think, was just more time on my bike.
Wow. So going into this race, did you do like a heart rate training? Was this power-based training on the bike? What was this like?
I just honestly looked up supported centuries in Illinois and just found all of the ones that would be close enough for me to do and that didn't conflict with work, and just signed up for I think I did like 4 or 5 centuries, and I got here in late June. So I was doing like 1 or 2 centuries a month. And I think that really prepared me, and that's what made the biggest impact on my race compared to Santa Rosa and Arizona.
Okay.
So it wasn't, I wouldn't say like zone training. I was just spending time, like more time on the saddle.
Getting those centuries under your belt.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Now, you said you had a coach. Who's your coach?
Jenny Hayes.
Nice. I've had her on the show. She's a really good lady out here.
Yeah, she's badass. She's she's a beast. I think she did Chattanooga in like 9 hours or something.
Wow.
Yeah, she's crazy fast.
Wow. So how is she putting the plan together for you?
She was good. It was a little different than I was used to. I had a coach in California, but I wanted to try somebody in the Chicagoland area just to kind of introduce me to the community. She was good. They were both good coaches. I liked that she took into consideration what I was used to with my previous coach, and she knew that I was very worried about my bike, and I was the bike is like my weak sport. Cause I just got into cycling and triathlons like 2 years ago. So, you know, she made me more comfortable letting me do as many centuries as I wanted, whereas my other coach didn't really want me to do a lot of centuries. I think it really put a lot more confidence in me, you know, behind the bike versus being on a trainer, just time on the saddle, you know, I like that she worked with me like that.
Okay. Now, whenever you actually think of your biggest training weeks going into Chattanooga, what was that like in comparison to Santa Rosa earlier this year?
The bricks, I would say, were a little different. I did a century. So my biggest brick was a century. This for Chattanooga was a century and a 6 mile run after, versus Santa Rosa was an 80 and 10. So an 80 mile ride and a 10 mile ride after. I think that prepared the 80-10 would have probably prepared me better, brick wise and running wise for Chattanooga and such a hilly course versus like the 106. But I mean, either way, I think that coming from like the Chicagoland area, and not knowing the area, I didn't prepare as much for a hilly course as I should have. But I really didn't know the area. In California, I had places where I could train, you know, on the bike with hills and run hills. And here I'm not familiar with the area. So I wasn't confident going out. I don't like to get lost and not know my surroundings. So I kind of just stuck to what I knew. And it was pretty much flat forest preserve and, you know, like flat rides. But either way, I mean, it helped with time on the saddle. So.
Right. Now, I know Santa Rosa has some hills like Chalk Hill, things like that, and some of the roads really aren't in the best conditions over there. And Chattanooga is a little bit hillier than Santa Rosa, all except for like the first descent, basically. And then you're on better roads in Chattanooga, right?
The roads were definitely better in Chattanooga. I was laughing when people were like, oh, the roads are, you know, tore up, they're messed up. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea what messed up roads are. The roads are really messed up in Santa Rosa, and it's like you'll be coming down a fast descent and it's potholy, and you know you'll make a sharp left or right turn and there's gravel. So there was a lot of accidents in Santa Rosa. Chattanooga, I didn't think that there was any bad roads. There was a few spots where it was like, oh, okay, but I mean nothing where it was like you were out of arrow like you were in Santa Rosa. And as far as they're both hilly courses, but nothing that you would really have to like get out of the saddle for kind of hills. It's more of like gradual, slow incline. And then, you know, you kind of get speed on fast descents, but they're both manageable. I mean, if I did them, I'm pretty sure anybody could do them because I'm not strong on the bike.
Right. So going into Chattanooga, what was your longest swim, bike, and run workouts?
So for Chattanooga, I didn't put in a lot of swims. I think I put in 2 long, which was one like 4,000 and one 3,000 yard swim. And then other than that, I probably did a few pool swims. So I was a little kind of happy that the swim didn't happen. I was just like, I know I'm not prepared for the swim. And then for the bike and the run, I put in, I did a 20 mile run and I think one 18 mile and a 16 mile were my longest. And then for the bike, I think my longest bike was like 103, which I was supposed to like do an overage of, I think like 110 or 115, but it was so hot this summer and humid. And I hadn't adjusted from California to like the humidity in Illinois. It was ridiculous. So all the times that I was supposed to do super long runs, it was just super hot. And I just got off my bike and was like, I'm going home. So yeah, I'm not like a super dedicated, you know, triathlete. I get out there and do what I'm supposed to do, but you know, I'm not going to risk overheating and dying of a heat stroke to just put in miles.
Right. Now, as far as your bricks go, what was your normal week looking like as far as doing run off the bikes or anything like that?
So the majority of during the week, it would be, she had me for 2 trainer workouts, but I would do one long ride or like a 30 mile ride on Wednesdays because I would go out with Performance, who did a Wednesday night ride. So I would do a 30-mile ride on Wednesday instead of like the 2 1 hour, hour and a half trainer rides. And so like no brick with that, because by the time we finished, it would be after, 8 o'clock at night and it would be dark out. So I usually would do swim and run on the same day, and then I would do my bike. And then Saturday, Sunday was the days that I was supposed to do my bricks. So.
Okay. So what sessions did you actually do that gave you the confidence to go into Chattanooga prepared?
I would say like that the last brick that I did with the 106, I knew that I was nervous, but I knew that I would be able to get through the run, because I was just worried about the bike. And I'm always worried about, you just have to make the bike cut off, make sure I can make it off the bike. So I had enough time. I did enough centuries that I felt confident enough to like be able to make the cutoff. And then once I got to the run, I knew I would be okay, even if I did a super slow run walk on the bike, because that's, not trying to be cocky. I just knew that like by the time I got to the run, I would be okay if I made it off the bike. Right.
Now, being that you've done plenty of centuries now, what kind of nutrition do you use to maintain your nutrition on the bike?
So I had a change in nutrition. I was using UCAN and CarboPro, and then I went and had a sweat test done, and they use precision hydration. So they use like salt tabs, and they use this these packets of stuff. And so I use the precision hydration and CarboPro mix.
Wow. So how many calories per hour are you aiming for?
So I don't do per hour. I do like it's 1,200 to 1,400 calories mixed in one bottle. So I take that in for 4 hours, and I do 2 of those bottles. So however long it takes me to finish the second half of the race, I switch my bottle out on my bike, and use that strictly for the bike. And then when I get to the run, I use the salt tabs, which each was 250 grams of sodium. So I take the pill, then I put it in a powder form, and I mix it with water and with Gatorade Endurance, and use it in a flask.
Wow.
And so I just sip on that and take water in.
So 1,200 calories per bottle?
Per bottle. So I have 2 bottles, and the first bottle lasts me about 3.5, 4 hours, and then I change them out.
Okay, so you're getting about 600 calories, you're getting about 200 calories an hour.
Yeah, 250-ish, because I try to take in maybe a little something at the stops. I'll take like maybe a bite of a banana and keep going. Or
okay, so in that 250 to 300 range then.
Yes.
Okay. So whenever you started realizing that this course was going to be somewhat hilly, did you do any strength training or incorporate hill work? I know you live in the Chicago area, and there's not too many hills up there, but you might have a treadmill maybe? There's
not, and I didn't realize that the run was going to be that hilly, so I really just kind of ran flat. I knew it was going to be some hills, but I was like, okay, I'll be okay for the bike. I didn't. I just put in saddle time, but now I know that I have a lot of friends who use Zwift, and I tried it a couple times, and that's going to be like my go-to training for Wisconsin for the winter months is using that and training on that. I've heard so many people say they've gotten so strong and their FTP has gotten so high. So that's going to be definitely something I'm going to be incorporating into my off-season training for the summer.
Okay. Now, whenever you start thinking of the most hours that you trained in 1 week, what was the most hours that you did train in 1 week?
I say about like the 20-mile or the 20-hour range. I don't necessarily like count hours wise. I just kind of just do my workouts. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, how many hours do you? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I just do my workouts. I don't necessarily count my hours. How I should be. I'm a new triathlete still. So, I don't base my training. I just do whatever's in my training peaks. I just do it. I don't count hours wise.
Okay. Now, whenever you start thinking of incorporating this 20 hours of training, which is essentially a part-time job, into your life, how well does this fit?
Oh man, it's definitely something that I'm glad I have off-season training now, being in the military, and I'm an MP, so, which is a military police. I have a very busy schedule on the military side, and they do not care about Ironman training, and they don't care that, I was on my bike for, 8 hours and did whatever. They're just like, I don't care you're sore. You still have a job to do. This is your first priority. It's mission first. And so, literally I did Chattanooga on Sunday, drove 10 hours Monday, and I was back to work on Tuesday. And they were like, I was there all day. I was thinking I'm just going to come in and show my face. They're like, yeah, no, there's, reports that have to get done. And I was just so miserable at work all day. But, it's definitely, I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids. My son's in college and my daughter is in 8th grade. So just with, moving to a new state and trying to incorporate my training and, still be there with my daughter to do stuff, because it's like on the weekends, she's home by herself when I'm doing my training, and I get home and she wants to do stuff. So I got to just suck it up and be like, okay, what do you want to do? Even though I'm sore, it doesn't matter. So, it's definitely, it's hard, but I tell people that I do it because it's something that, helps me with my PTSD. There's a lot of people that are in the military that have PTSD, and a lot of people don't like to talk. I just barely started telling people that, but it's honest, and it's like something that helps me keep myself sane, helps me keep my brain and my bad thoughts from coming in when I'm busy and always have, to do something, and I'm not at home sitting and thinking about stuff, and doesn't let me get to the dark place. So, I have been, telling a lot of my soldiers about, not so much the Ironman branded things, but like shorter triathlons and just, getting on your bike and cycling, because it keeps your mind off of, things that you don't necessarily want to think about.
All right. So I was actually in the Army as well, and I've been blown up in Afghanistan, and I can kind of relate to the PTSD.
Oh,
everybody's
nice.
different, and
yeah,
I can completely understand what you're going through a little bit, but probably not your exact situation, because I was an engineer and you're an MP, so it's a little bit different, but same kind of concept at least. Now, how do you go about actually? How can I word this? It's because you have a daughter in the 8th grade and one in college. You just moved from California to the Chicago area, and you have PTSD. And how do you actually find the willpower to not just say, I'm going to spend my time and devote my time to my daughter versus spending that time to yourself? Because that's got to be an internal conflict, right?
it is. But when I think about the sacrifice that she's putting in, and I always think, like, when I come home, I'm tired, and I'm just like, I know she has been in the house all day, and even though I necessarily don't want to go walk around or go to the mall or go whatever, I always think about how much she sacrifices for me, and that outweighs pretty much anything.
Wow. So where does your oldest go to college at?
He's going to a community college. He goes to Moraine Valley. He has a basketball scholarship there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that there locally, or is that over in California?
It's locally, yeah. It's south it's like South Chicago, I guess. Like.
Okay. Now, going into this race, you maxed your training out at 20 hours a week, or whatever that might be. Did you have any days where you just mentally didn't want to train?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of those days. I was already I think I was just fatigued from the last 2, and I necessarily didn't really take a break, besides the time that I was like in transit. So there was days where I'm like, I'm not going to do the training, and I wouldn't do the training. And then it's like, I get in my head and I'm like, oh, you're like a piece of shit. Why didn't you do the training? This is like, then the next day I'm like, okay, I got to do more now because you didn't do the training. So I would miss runs because I'm like, I don't feel like getting up in the morning. And then, so when I missed runs, I would just do the 2 runs together instead of doing like, a 5 and a 3. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, maybe I'll just do a 10-mile run today. And so that's how I kind of made up for when I didn't do my training, I should say.
Okay. That makes complete sense. Now, knowing that you train 20 hours a week and you have 2 kids, one in college, one in the 8th grade, you're training all this time, how do you balance the life, work, and training effectively?
My daughter's listening. She's like, she does it. No, honestly, I try to balance as best as I can. My unit, they work really well with me. So, they know that in the mornings I would try to do my swims and I would be coming in, I'm supposed to be at my desk by like 09 or whatever. And if that was coming in a little late, they'd be like, okay with that. Or if I wanted to leave early to go do a swim or run, they worked with me. So, on the job aspect, like, even though they always like, we don't care that you have outside stuff, like your number one priority is the mission. They were really good and they worked with me. My last unit, just because I was there for 4 years, I mean, they would be like, girl, I didn't even barely have to come into work. I was just like trading whenever I wanted. Here it's a new unit, so they're getting to know me. So it wasn't as laid back as my last unit. So I still have to like necessarily put in the hours. And then with my kids, I just have really, really good kids, and they know that this is something that I like to do. And they know that, I'm supportive with everything that they do, and I'm, at all their games and all their whatever. And so they just kind of deal with it, but they expect, at least my daughter now, 'cause she's the only one in the house besides me, is, she expects her time as well. So, even though I'm tired when I come in on the weekends, I still make sure that I give her time, no matter, how tired I am. So when you're a single parent, that kind of stuff, you don't get to take a break and say, oh, well, I'm just going to sleep in and let somebody else deal with it. You just have to do it all yourself.
Right. Now, going into this race, were you wanting to lose weight at all? And did you lose weight in training?
I don't necessarily know if I lost weight. Just, I think I lost weight because some of the guys at the unit were like, oh my gosh, you're getting, small. I'm already pretty, like, I'm 130 pounds. So like a small, like 5'5". So I don't have a scale. I don't necessarily ever weigh myself because I don't like getting caught up in the numbers, and I don't want like to teach my daughter to think about numbers and weight. But in size wise, I guess with my clothes, I could tell a little bit, but I think it's just like more muscle definition, not necessarily like losing weight, because like, my grandmother sees me. She's like, oh my God, you're so skinny. Of course, grandmas always think that you could gain some weight. So, I would say maybe just a little bit, but I don't think like anything drastic.
Okay. Now, going into this race, we'll just transition a little bit. When did you actually start traveling to the race?
I left on Thursday morning at 05. And it took me, I think, a little over 10 hours to get there. It was raining really, really bad. And I had to pull over at a few points, just because it was, 2 lanes and the trucks were it was crazy. So I pulled over for a little bit, a couple stops, and then got there, I think around 5 or 6. I think that's because I was waiting for my roommate. So I ended up stopping somewhere else and waiting for her. And so Thursday I traveled all day.
Wow. So whenever you actually got to Chattanooga, where did you stay at?
We stayed in an Airbnb. It was really nice, little 2-bedroom house. I had 2 bedrooms, a bath, a whole like kitchen and dining room area. I think if I ever went back, I would do that versus like a hotel room.
Okay. So where was this Airbnb at? Was this on the transition side of the river, or was this on the other side of the river?
Wait, it's not that one. It was on. It was like 5 or 10 minutes away from like the downtown location. I don't know the area that well.
Not a big deal. Things that don't matter. That I was just asking for S&Gs.
Okay.
So whenever you actually got to Chattanooga and you got to the village, how was your experience and impression of the village here versus the other two races that you've done?
Oh God, horrible, horrible. I mean, we were in flip-flops. We had to take our flip-flops off and walk barefoot. It was completely flooded, muddy, and it took like the whole fun of the whole Ironman village, like let's go shop around, fun out of it. We were like, let's just get our stuff and get the hell out because it was disgusting and we were full of mud. There was just mud everywhere. It was not fun.
So it was muddy.
Very muddy. The whole village was like flooded. It was completely flooded. I had posted videos and like Instagram stories about how much like you would step and your foot would soak into the ground.
Wow.
Yes.
So the year I did it in 2015, it rained and my wife ruined her flip-flops as well because of the mud there.
Well, people were like, just take them off, because they were like, people are like breaking their flip flops because they would get stuck in the mud. You're like trying to lift your foot, but they're completely stuck in the mud. And then when you pick it up, it's like all the flap, it throws all the mud all over you. It was a disaster. Ugh. I don't think they made as much money as they probably could have if it was better conditions. And then they threw sand down, and the sand just made a horrible. It made it so much worse, and then it smelled, and it was like, oh God. Yeah.
The year I did, they threw hay down, thinking the hay would make it better. So,
yeah.
The only thing that would make it better is, like, put it on the concrete somewhere.
Yes.
Not in the grass.
Oh, it was horrible. We were like, let's just get out of here. Yeah, so we didn't even shop around. We literally went in. We wanted to stop at a few places, and then we were just like, this is too much. Let's just go.
Wow. Now, whenever you actually got your bib, your packet, and all this stuff, what all was in your package this time?
The same thing that is always in there is like the flag, the poster, the little bag with like whatever little stuff in it. They did offer you if you wanted to if you wanted a swim cap or not. They just didn't put a number on it. So I took the swim cap because this time I'll wear that. I try not to wear the ones that actually have my number because I kind of want to save them. So now I have one to wear because I didn't do the swim. So
wow. So whenever you actually start thinking of your day-to-day nutrition leading up to the race, did you make any adjustments to how you wanted to get calories in, what you wanted to restrict or get in for sure before the race?
Oh yes, I turn into like a super crazy psycho. I add 1,000 calories of Carbo Pro starting Friday. So 1,000 calories of Carbo Pro on top of like whatever I eat, and then I take in Pedialyte. I started drinking Pedialyte on Thursday as well. So Pedialyte and Carbo Pro I start Thursday. Wow. So I kind of start like my carbo loading on Thursday.
And it's just with the Carbo Pro, basically.
Right.
So it's easy on the stomach. It's easy to kind of get your body to absorb that. No issues there?
No, the only thing that I did notice, because I just, I talked to one of my friends. She's done like 150 marathons or something. And she's the one that told me about, I know, she's insane. She's older too. She's like in her 60s. And she's the one that told me the easiest way to get in your extra calories is through Carbo Pro, and it's easy for your body to digest. So that was the first time that I actually tried to take in that many calories on Thursday. So it kept me full for a long time. So I would try to eat my meals, and it's like I would be like full off a few bites. So it's probably like a process that I need to wean my body into before, but it did work. I mean, by Saturday, I was able to still take in my Carbo Pro. I took it in pretty early, and I was still able to eat like smaller meals throughout the day.
Okay. So the day before the race, what's your nutrition plan from everything that you're eating that day?
So I did, in the morning, I mixed Pedialyte with my Carbo Pro for the 1,000 calories. I took in cream of wheat, and then we had pancakes, eggs, and potatoes. So big breakfast. And then for lunch, had sandwich and potatoes. And then for dinner, just white pasta with a little bit of olive oil and sea salt, and that's it.
Okay, so you're not tapering your nutrition really through the day?
I just take in. We had our dinner by like 5 or 6, and then didn't really eat anything else after that. It was pretty much drinking liquids, and that's it.
Okay. Now, as far as getting like dairy or roughage, are you eliminating those from your diet?
Yes, no dairy, no roughage. Starting Friday. Well, I don't eat dairy anyways, so I don't. Well, besides eggs, I don't know if that would be considered a dairy, but yeah. So yeah, and then roughage, no roughage. I think Friday was the last day. I try to take now. Well, cream of wheat, I guess, is kind of considered grain, but yeah, no roughage.
Okay. Now I lost my train of thought. Gosh. Oh, I was going to ask, are you vegan?
I'm not vegan. I used to be vegan and then a vegetarian. I eat chicken a little now and then, but no dairy. So I try to just eat a little bit of fish and poultry, but not too much.
Wow. Okay. Now, what was your last workout going into this race?
My last workout, we did a bike preview on Saturday, and then we did the underpants run. I think that was Saturday as well. I didn't wear my underpants only because I'm like, I don't think my kids and my family will. So I had on my shorts and I threw some underpants on top. So I was very modest. Compared to the stuff I seen, I was like, holy, yeah, some people are very free.
Interesting. Okay. So here we are the day before the race. You're getting ready to go to bed. You already know the swim is canceled. How did you deal with this? Because I know there are lots of people out there going, well, I can't wear that medal. I can't wear that shirt because I didn't do the whole distance. How did you interpret this, and how did you deal with this issue?
Well, I think because I've already did 2 other ones, to me, I'm like, I'm already an Ironman. I'm going to wear my shirt, and I'm still proud of my medal. And, I know I worked my ass off on the bike. I think that if this was my first, I would probably have similar feeling. Because, I was a little disappointed about the swim because it's like you kind of, you want the whole experience. But being that this wasn't my first, I didn't have those. At first, I was kind of bummed, but I'm just like, what could you do? Like, it is what it is, and I'm here. It doesn't make sense for me to try to defer it or whatever, so I'm just going to do it.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, too, because I feel like you kind of have to deal with the weather conditions as it comes, and you have to understand that the race officials are going to make this as safe as possible. And, I mean, I'm sure you haven't seen that river when it's normal, but I was there just earlier this year in May, and I saw a video somebody posted, and I was like, wow. It is high. And
to 20 times the E. coli amount, like, I'm not trying to die for no race. Shit, it ain't that important to me. Like, I'm not trying to risk my health for a race.
Yeah, it ain't that important.
No, not at all.
Wow. Now, as far as your bags go, what are you putting in your bags? Are you using special needs? What does this look like?
I use special needs on the bike. I had a Coke, some Lay's potato chips, and Sour Patch Kids.
What, are you going on a picnic?
And it worked very well. Nice cold Coke, and some nice salty chips. And I threw a couple Sour Patch Kids in my mouth, and I was back on the bike.
Wow.
For the run, I didn't use one. I did use one for Santa Rosa because everybody said that you need a headlamp. So in Santa Rosa, I put in a headlamp and a jacket just because I didn't know how cold it was going to be. But I didn't need, for Chattanooga, I didn't put anything in there.
Wow. So whenever you actually get to the race morning, or hold on, let me back up a little bit more. The night before the race, who all is there? Is it just you and the Airbnb? Is your family?
It was, no, none of my family went. So this was the first race that I have done without my family. So I had a little bit of mixed emotions. My roommate was there, and she had a Sherpa that came down on Saturday. So we were all trying to get our bags organized. And believe it or not, it's kind of weird not having the swim. So it was kind of a little thrown off. And I'm like, wait, what do I need? And like trying to get my bags together was a little confusing because I'm like, oh, wait, well, I don't need to pack this because we're going to be straight on the bike. And it throws you off a little bit because it's just like.
You don't need a towel. You don't need some stuff. Just leave all that here. We'll do that back home.
Yeah.
Wow. So now, did Jeannie actually tell you how to prepare for this race? And being that the swim was canceled, you wanted to actually hit a certain power number or heart rate number on the bike. What does this look like for you?
Well, no, she didn't necessarily tell me power or heart rate. She just said, don't take it out as hard as you think you want to, because you have 2 loops and everybody's going to be overly anxious because they're going to, go out and kill it because they didn't do the swim. And she's like, just hold back, until the second lap, so that you don't kill yourself and kill your legs on the first lap. So I had that always in the back of my mind, but it was definitely harder to get on your bike without the swim because you're cold. And, there's like no way to warm up because you're like in your bike shoes. It's like you can't really do, jumping jacks or like running in place because you don't want to trip and fall. So it's like you're jumping on your bike cold. And I was like, oh gosh, like worried. I don't want to pull something, And so, I didn't really like that part. But I think they did the best they could with 2 people at a time every 5 seconds. But there was really no way not to draft because everybody's pretty much starting at the same time. And so like, if you're a faster rider, you're still going to catch up with the people at, some point. And if you're a little slower, then the other people are going to catch up to you. So like the first lap, it was pretty bad. I mean, everybody was trying their best, but there was really like no way. And not until really like the second lap did it start to break up, but it was still pretty like
congested.
Pretty congested. Yeah, I don't want to say people were drafting, but it was like
there was
like nowhere to go. Yeah. Versus the swim, because it's like everybody's starting at different times and it's not like boom, everybody's starting at one time.
Right. Now, I know you're bib number 924 and they started the race at 8:50. Is that right? I think it was 8:50.
Yes.
So what time did you actually get going down the road from you? When did your race start?
Like 9 something. It honestly went really fast. We were really surprised. Everybody, we were like, oh my gosh, is this us already? It went way fast. I mean, I thought I was going to be like, around 10ish. And then I was getting worried that the cutoff was, I forgot the first cutoff. I don't remember. It was like 4 hours to do 58 miles or something. And I was like trying to do the math in my head and I was like getting all crazy and, freaked out. And we ended up starting at 9 something. And I was like, oh shit, this gives me, like an extra hour. So I was like really happy. I was like, oh, they moved the people through really fast and nice and efficient. So
that's good. Now, whenever you start thinking of when you actually went to bed, what time did you actually go to bed the night before the race?
I know I went to bed late, just because, I was up with my roommate. We were just up talking and, getting our stuff together. And by the time I showered and finally got like settled in, and then, your mind's always like race night. So I think I went to sleep probably about after midnight and woke up at like 4:35.
Wow.
Like 4:30 or 5.
So 4 hours before your race is going to start.
Yeah, 4 or 5. And that's what I've had, for the last, the 2 races that I did. That's about the amount of time that I slept. And, I was okay. It's not like I'm like, oh my God, I'm so exhausted. It's
okay. Now, so you wake up then, what is your morning ritual like before you actually leave your Airbnb and you'll head to transition?
So I always do Carbo Pro in the morning. I put 200 calories of Carbo Pro in my cream of wheat, and I had coconut water. So I ate my I ate my cream of wheat with Carbo Pro and had coconut water, and then just slowly started getting ready. And I had a lot of time because I woke up super super early, and we weren't leaving the we weren't leaving the house until I think like 6 because transition opened at 6:30 or 7:30, something like that. So we had a lot of time. And I like to get food in my stomach early so that I could process, you know, it can move through my system. And I try to use the bathroom before we get to the Porta Johns. I always like to just get up and just wind down and after I eat so that I'm not like rushing and I don't have a big blob of, you know, cream of wheat in my stomach. But that's like normal. Whenever I do long rides or bricks on the weekends, I always get up like 2 hours before, 3 hours before so that I could get food in my system and like try to process it.
Okay. Now, I was snooping through your Facebook before you hopped on here, and there was, I want to say, there's a picture of a bottle of Ensure, pickles, and some drink from Starbucks, it looked like. And they all had notes on there, and one of them said, "Don't trust the farts."
My daughter's a sweetheart. She put all those notes on there for me because, like I said, I was leaving at, 04:05. And so she put all these little notes on like the refrigerator and on the drinks. So usually I do Ensure after like a long ride or run, just to get like calories in me right away. And so, yeah, she put, because they came to Santa Rosa, or was it Arizona, and they seen somebody shit themselves when they like when they ran across the finish line. They were like, "Oh my God!" One of the pros had like shit down her leg, and they were it's like a running joke, like, "Don't trust the fart. You're not a pro. You're not gonna get money." Like, so, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'll make a note of that. We gotta talk about that afterwards. But I saw someone at Santa Rosa. We'll talk later about that. We'll definitely mention that later. Anyway, so you get up on race morning, you're getting everything ready, you head over to transition. What are you doing to your bike before you're actually heading out? Are you using a certain PSI or anything like that, making sure everything's calibrated? What's this like for you?
Yeah, I get all my bottles, I put them on my bike, I put my tires. So I was really worried the night before because, on the Facebook, like the Chattanooga Facebook thing, people were freaking out and saying like, "Oh, if your number, whatever, your back tire just popped." And like, so people were saying, "Oh, you're supposed to like not have enough, not have a lot of air in your tires or they're going to pop." So me and my roommate were freaking out and it was already too late because transition was closed. So I was worried. I didn't want my tires to bust. And I'm like, I forgot where you're supposed to leave your tire at. So the tire pressure. So I usually ride at 120.
Really?
And I don't know, like
20?
I know. And people ask me that. And I'm like, I don't know. I just know my coach from when I was in California always says that, like, to pump that. And so I know the people next to me, the girls that were like kind of my size, say they were only pumping to like 90. And I'm like, you're only pumping to 90? And they're like, yeah, what do you pump to? And I'm like, 120. They're like, what? Why? Like, I don't understand what did it. I don't know. I just know I've never really. And so I'm like, maybe I need to talk to like somebody at a bike shop about that. I don't really understand the tire pressure thing.
Okay, so this is interviewed like about 170 perspective for that. The average is between 90 and 100. I'm not sure what your height and weight is, but I would assume you're not more than 150. I would definitely say...
Yeah, I'm 5'5", 130.
So 5'5", 130, I would definitely say you're wanting to be at 85 to 95. Somewhere there is going to give you a nice soft ride without giving you too hard of a ride where you hit a pothole and just pop your tire, which would suck. So I think 120 is probably a little bit too high. And I know somebody's going to comment on here and be like, hey, but whatever. That's what I would recommend.
So the more tire pressure, means, or like the more air means what?
So whenever you have too much PSI in your wheel is actually like floating over it doesn't have as much contact time. And I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but Andrew Lewis.
It's confusing, right?
Yes, Andrew Lewis, like, I will get him on a rant one time and record it because we talk often. And he is an aero data geek, and we just did an episode about Super Frog, and I think it's like 156 or so, and we talk about some data stuff. I don't think we actually talk about that, but that's something that we can go down the rabbit hole, and I'll make sure I tag you on that whenever that comes out. But it's something that I'll make sure I mention for the Indian Wells episode, because he's going to be coming back on for Indian Wells. But yes, 85 to 95 is completely fine. I wouldn't go anything more than 100. You don't need that. It's just too much. And especially, it's just going to give you a little bit more control as well.
Okay.
Now, whenever you actually get done with all of your fun stuff at transition, you're getting ready to line up, how long were you actually there waiting before you actually left?
We were waiting maybe like 30 minutes. 30 minutes to actually like take our bikes off the rack and start walking through like the corrals that they had for us. And then once we got to the corral, it was pretty quick. It was like boom, 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 boom. I mean, it was less than, I don't know, maybe like less than 5 minutes once we got our bikes off.
Wow. So this is a two-loop lollipop course. You go south in Georgia, or south to Georgia, then you do 2 loops, and then you come back north on the stick there. And it's also 116 miles versus 112, so you get a little bit more. And there's a few railroad tracks there that are covered with some black rubber mats, if I remember that right.
Yes.
So how was your first impression of the bike course for the first 5-6 miles?
Going out, I think, is where people were saying that the roads were a little rough. And they were. You just have to, stay alert, keep your eyes on the road, and you'll see, like, okay, move around this. And some people were just going so hard. They were like starting off, and, like hitting all the huge potholes. And, but I think, starting off, it wasn't bad. I was just trying to take it easy and trying to warm my legs up and try to, get my heart rate up, before we actually got onto like the big 2-loop road.
Right. And some of that is on like through town, and you're kind of taking some turns and whatnot, but did you find that you needed some very good handling skills, or could a novice do this pretty easy?
Somewhat good of handling skills. I had rode the bike course the day before, so I knew like, okay, this is where I really need to pay attention. I think if you're going out without having an idea of what you're going into, then it may be a little like nerve-wracking, because you are going through town. There's a lot of turns. Some of the streets are pretty messed up, but like I said, because I already had reconned the area, I knew what to look out for. And I was prepared.
Okay. Now, whenever you actually start thinking of the first 30, 40 miles, how did this go for you?
First 30, 40 miles, it was okay. There was a lot of congestion because everybody was like, kind of starting at the same time. And there was some very aggressive people, like, left, like, calm the fuck down. You were like, not a pro, relax. So, I think just, trying, I guess, to like warm up your legs is the hardest part of you're not coming from this way. You're already not warmed up. And so you're just kind of going into it, and you're cold. And I think if I remember correctly, you're going into it and it's already like a bit of a climb. I think there's like a slight elevation. And that's what I was kind of telling my friend, like even on the parts where you're flat, it's really not flat because there's still like a 2 or 3% incline. So it's more
some false flats.
False flat, yeah. But overall, I mean, it's not bad.
Right, and there's one hill, I think it's at mile 32, and then you hit it again at 79 or something like that.
Yes.
And how was that hill for you the first time around?
The first time, not bad. The second time, it's just like, was it this long? I mean, it's not that it's unmanageable, and that, because Chalk Hill was a harder climb than that other one was. Really? But I think you're just, I think because your legs are just tired because of, even though they're rollers, you're still working, because it's like you're still like working down the hill to get the speed, to go up. And then once you get up, you still got to kind of be able to maintain that. And then, like I said, it's pretty much like a false flat throughout. So you have to like try not to power too much through because you don't want to burn your legs out. But I mean, I don't think it was bad.
Okay. Now, I think what might have made this a little bit harder is because you can actually see the entire hill in front of you, where at Chalk Hill, it's like winding around a curvy course versus like...
Yes, at Chalk Hill, you're like, oh, I'm almost done. And then you're like turning, you're like, what the fuck? It's still more hills.
Yeah.
You know, it's like still the hill. Then you make another turn and it's like still. But this one is like, you can see it. And you're like, okay, let me try to get as much momentum going down this one hill, you know, because it's like you're kind of going down one hill and then it kind of flattens out and then you're going back up. So it's like if you kind of get enough momentum, you can kind of work your way all the way kind of to like halfway up the hill. And then it's like, oh, you got to kind of power through. But none of the hills were something that like you had to really get out of the saddle for. It's not anything unbearable.
Okay, now with the aid stations here, do you feel like you had enough time to get what you needed and then pass off what you wanted to discard?
I don't remember what aid station it was, but they need to change that shit. They had it right at like the top of a hill. It's like, who the hell puts an aid station right there? Because it's like, you don't know if like, should I stop? Should I not? Because like, then you're going to have to try to get on your bike on an uphill. It was really, really stupid. Even the volunteers were like, I don't know why they put this here. But it was only one of them, but it was just really, really stupid that they put it there. But all of the volunteers and pretty much, you know, all the aid stations besides that one, they were just so wonderful. And I had enough time and they, you know, they handed out the bottles really good. It looks like they had more training than some of the other 2 courses that I've been to where they're, you know, like handing you the stuff and people are like dropping stuff all over the place. They did really good, and the volunteers were great about like, oh, you need to use the bathroom, I'll hold your bike, and you don't have to worry about like putting it on a rack. So they were very, very helpful.
Nice. Now, the first loop around, you get to come through Chickamauga, the little city where special needs is. How was this experience for you?
As far as like the people or as far as special needs?
All of it.
It was good. They had a wonderful system. They had somebody like on a loudspeaker. So as soon as you came to like the special needs, they were screaming out your number and they got your bags really quick for you. And I've never had somebody hold the bag for me. And you know, one of the volunteers, they handed me my bag. I was going to take it. She's like, no, just, you know, get whatever you want out. I'll hold it for you. And she sat there and held the bag. Like, you know, I ate some chips and drank my drink and whatever. And so I thought that was really, really nice. I just thought the volunteers in that area were just wonderful.
Wow. Because whenever I did it in 2015, it's like the whole city came out to support the race.
I didn't really see that much spectating. There was some people out, but I don't want to say there were like a ton of people. And I don't know if it was necessarily the weather, because they had rained a little bit that morning and just, you know, tons of rain the few days before. So there was people, but there wasn't a lot of spectators out there.
Okay. Now, whenever you actually start thinking of the data screens that you're wanting to look at on your computer, what do you want to look at?
Hey, everybody, I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and I just want to let you know that I've enjoyed having so many people on this show, and I couldn't really do it without your support. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and being a part of what I'm doing. If you would, take a few moments to leave me a review over on iTunes. It would help me out tremendously, and enjoy the show.
Now, whenever you actually start thinking of the data screens that you're wanting to look at on your computer, what do you want to look at?
I look at my heart rate zone and my heart rate. I tried to not get to heart rate zone 4 because of climbing. You know, it's like your heart rate kind of spikes up and down, and I like to kind of stay in between 2 and 3. But that was just a little bit, you know, impossible to stay in that with the climbing. So I try to look at that, and I try to look at my cadence and try to stay at like 90-ish when I'm not climbing. But I did notice I kept looking at my elevation, the percent, and that's how I knew that even though I thought it was flat, it was still a 2 or 3% incline. So I knew like, okay, you're still climbing, so, you know, don't push hard.
Okay, so you're only looking at heart rate heart rate zone, cadence, and elevation?
Right.
Okay. So you're not worrying about total time, total distance, or any of that?
Well, yeah, total time I look at, I knew I had, by the time I made it to the mile 58 mark, I knew I had already made the cutoff. So I don't necessarily like worry so much about my time because I mean, I know I'm not going to have like a wonderful like 6 hour, 6:30 bike time. I just try to do the best I can and get off my bike as long as I make the cutoff.
Right. Now, coming on the other side of Chickamauga, there's a downhill that kind of sweeps down to the left and then down to the right.
Yes,
And
somebody crashed on the first loop.
really?
Yeah. And they did a great job writing in like orange, slow down, and they had signs. And apparently I seen somebody getting up and they're like, slow down, one down already. And I was like, oh gosh, yeah, that's not good.
Wow. So
Yeah.
whenever you actually got through the first loop and heading out on the second loop, you take that left to go onto your second loop versus the right that goes back into town. How is that feeling for you?
You're like, oh gosh, I wish I was on my second. And then it's like when you see the signs, you're like, you're on your first loop and you're like, oh, mile 60 and mile 80, and you see the 100 mile, you're like, fuck, I wish that was me. But then at the second you loop, you're like, oh, thank God I'm like done with this shit already, because you're like, by then you are just ready to get off that bike. And you're just like, when I looked at the 112, I'm like, I should be off my fucking bike right now, and I'm still pedaling. My crotch hurts, my feet hurt. I'm ready to get off the stupid ass bike.
Wow. Now, whenever you start thinking of your nutrition plan, did this go according to plan for you?
No, there was a slight little hiccup. So when I stopped at one of the aid stations to use the bathroom, my bottle that I carry my nutrition in my aero bars, I had asked the little boy that was holding my bike, I said, oh, can you give me some water? And he's like, oh, I already filled it with water. And so I look at the part where my water should be, and I'm like, no, I need more water. And he's like, oh, I filled it in the black one. And I'm like, oh no. So my black bottle is where I keep my nutrition, and I probably had maybe like another hour to go on it. And he had filled it with water, so it like through my nutrition,
Diluted it a little bit.
all of it, because he like it filled it with water, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I was like stressed out because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should throw this out and put my new nutrition on here. So I ended up just using the black bottle. And never got into my second bottle. So I think that's where I had issues with my, like GI. And I don't know if it was necessarily that or maybe something that I took at an aid station, but for the run, I had GI issues. And I don't know if it was just because I was under calories or, I don't know what happened, but yeah. That definitely like messed me up. So like next time I know to be verbal and say, oh, don't put water in this, or, don't fill anything. So that something like that doesn't happen again.
Okay. Now, usually about miles 70, 80, and 90, those miles are normally the hardest part mentally for
Yes.
people. How are you doing during these parts?
Actually, at mile 80, I was still okay. In my head, I was like, oh, okay, this is not bad. By mile like 90, I started to get, and I have to talk to my bike fitter about this because I don't know if it's just maybe something with my fit or my saddle, but the bottom like pad of my foot on my right foot was so tender that when I would like press down on my pedal, it was just aching so bad. And I've had pain like that, but not to that level and like to that extent. So I don't know what that was about, but overall, like leg wise, physically I felt okay, besides my pads, like the pad of the bottom of my foot was just hurting so bad. And then mentally it was like, once it got in my head and I'm like, oh, it hurts so bad. And then it's just like, okay, I just want to get off this bike. I'm just over this. But I think if I wouldn't have had like the foot pain, I think I would have been okay, because I guess from doing, so many centuries, I was like pretty okay in like conditions to be on that bike that long. And that's like, I guess my biggest takeaway from the training for this race versus like Santa Rosa. I don't think that I did enough long runs. For this one, I think I did great with a lot of long runs, which helped me, you know, be able to like be at mile 80 and like 90 without physically being in a lot of pain. I just think that something is off, or I don't know if it's my shoe or how my cleat is. But I definitely want to make sure I get that looked at before, you know, before my next, well, I mean, I have a long time to my next race, but get that looked at. And I think I'll be okay bike-wise after that.
Right. Now, mentally, you really have to know why you're doing this and your drive behind your purpose of doing this in the first place to get through some of those mental hardships in the race, right?
Yes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what's your why? Why do you do this? What's your passion behind this?
My passion behind this is because I initially did my first one. I did Arizona, and I dedicated it to my battle that I lost in Iraq. And so I dedicated the race to him and to, you know, all my brothers and sisters that didn't make it back or that don't have the ability to do this. And so, you know, when I'm on my bike and, you know, just miserable, that's what I think of. I'm like, you know, Elliot didn't get to come back home, and I know he's in heaven laughing like, dang, Sergeant, you're still crazy because I made him run the Army 10-miler when we were in Iraq and they were pissed off at me. So like, I try to think of that. Usually I like, oh, your kids are here. You know, I usually think that, you know, they're going to be waiting for you at the finish line. You have to finish. And this time they weren't there. So I really, really had to dig deep. Because I'm like, they're, you know, usually what I fight for, and because I know they're going to be waiting for me. And I'm like, this time I have nobody waiting for me at the finish line. So I'm like, necessarily, you don't have to finish. But then, you know, like, I always look at my wrist and I wear, you know, a memorabilia bracelet with his stuff on there. And I always look at that bracelet, and that's what keeps me going.
Wow. So it's a real personal to you.
It is.
Wow. So how close were you and Elliot?
We were pretty close. It's, I necessarily don't really like talking about it because I don't like bringing the memories back, but it's something I feel responsible for. I was the squad leader, and it was a mission, that just didn't go right. So, I think as a leader, you're always, whenever something like this happens, if somebody gets hurt and somebody dies, you know, something bad like this happens, I think as leaders, we always carry the blunt of it and blame ourselves. And so, I mean, that's a cross that, you know, I have to carry. And I hope that, like, you know, I make him proud in everything that I do. And, even though I wish it was me and he was alive right now, that's just not how God wanted it. But, you know, things happen for a reason. So, you know, I just hope that in everything that I do, that I make him proud. So.
Wow. That's powerful.
Thanks.
Wow. So whenever you start thinking of the later portions of the bike ride, past 100 to 110, where you're getting ready to go, okay, I got less than 30 minutes. I got less than 15 minutes. How is this going for you?
Yeah, by 110, I was just over it. I was like ready to get off the bike. And then, you know, at 112, I'm like, if this was any normal bike course, I would be off the fucking bike right now. And I was like, how fucking long is 4 miles? Like, this is the longest 4 miles ever.
I thought the same shit whenever I was there.
I was like, what the hell? And so it's like still 112. It's not like, oh my Jesus, 2 more miles. How long is this? And then, you know, just finally I just got there. I'm like, oh my God, I just got off my bike. Like, take that shit. You can have it. I don't even care.
See it again.
I don't even care what happens to that bike at this point. And so, yeah, I just went in transition. I was like pretty much over it. I was like, oh my God, everything hurts. The bottom of my feet are killing me. And I just took my time. I didn't, you know, usually I try to do a pretty fast transition, and this time I just sat my ass down. I was taking my time, putting on my socks and changing. And, so yeah, I wasn't, you know, in a big of a rush to get out there.
Wow. So whenever you actually got out on the run course, what was your first impression of the first mile?
what the fuck? Why would they start this shit on an uphill? Like, are we serious right now? Like, what the fuck? Like, oh my God. So I literally started off walking. I'm like, I'm not even gonna fucking run. I'm like, this is uphill. So once I like kind of got to the crest of the top, I started, slowly jogging. And so it was like kind of downhill and kind of like through like the highway. It was pretty much a bunch of highway, and then you kind of go off into like a park. And behind some stuff, and they had a section where they had like a little band that was really fun and motivating. But once it got dark, it was just like, I'm so over this shit. My stomach hurts. I don't even have my family at the finish line. It's just like, I was just over it.
Man, you held that against your family like something like nobody's business. My family wasn't there at the finish line. Like,
no, and it wasn't their fault, because so my son couldn't come because he, like I said, he has a basketball scholarship. So this Sunday was their first game, so he can't miss practice and play, which is part of the rules, like part of their whatever. So he couldn't come because he would have missed Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And I don't think the coaches would have been okay with that. And my daughter just started a new school. We're new to the district, so I necessarily didn't want to pull her out of school. So it wasn't that they wanted to come. My daughter wanted to come. I just didn't want to pull her. But I'm just saying, like, more so in my mind, I always think like, I can't wait to be at the finish line and see them and hug them. And I'm like, shit, like, I don't have nobody to hug when I cross the finish line. It's just going to be like, good job. Here's your medal. So it was like, kind of didn't have like that driving force behind me to be like, oh, okay, let's buckle down and push hard.
Right. Now, whenever you actually start thinking of miles, say 3 through 10, you're not over on the other side of the river yet. You're all on this side so far, and you're about to go up one of the bigger hills before you kind of get on the bridge right there. I'm sure you know exactly where that is.
Yes.
So how was this hill here before you go on the other side of the river?
I was just rolling my eyes when I kept looking. Every time I looked, there was more of a fucking hill, and I'm like, oh my God. And then, I just think that not being prepared for and not training for the conditions definitely took a toll on my legs, because my hamstrings and my glutes and my quads were already on fire. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a long ass run, is all I kept telling myself. Cause I knew it was going to be 2 loops of it. And so I just said, okay, just try to run as much as you can on, the downhills and the flat, because I know I was going to be doing a lot of walking up the hills. And I knew once, my legs got burnt out, that I wasn't really going to be doing any more running.
Right. Now, it's obviously a 2-loop course, and it's not really that hot on this day. It's kind of cooler, right? Because it had been raining, but the humidity was obviously high.
The humidity was 90% humidity.
Oh.
So still humid as fuck, but not necessarily, hot. It was just humid where it's like you're breathing and it feels thick. And you're still sweating, but there was no like sun beating down on you. I guess that was the only good part, because it was kind of overcast, but it was still very humid.
Wow. So whenever you actually got to the other side of the river the first time around, how was this experience for you?
I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. 1 lap down, just like 1 lap down. But I'm like in the back of my head, like, oh my gosh. Because by then it was like already starting to get dark, if it wasn't already dark by then. And no, I think it was already dark. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, just thinking. And I think once it gets dark and the sun goes down, it makes it mentally that much harder, because it's just like, you're just like, I'm so over it. It's dark. I'm ready to be done. You start letting doubts get in your head. Like, oh gosh, like my legs really hurt. And you start kind of like falling for all the negative things to like allow that stuff to get in your head. And it's just like, if you're super fast, like, like Coach Jen, where you finish during the day, I think it's like, oh, it's right throughout the thing. So it's like you don't really have all those negative thoughts like, oh fuck, it's so dark, I'm so tired, my body hurts, I just, I'm just exhausted, I want to go home, because it's like you're like, oh, it's nighttime, I should be asleep or taking a shower right now.
Right. Now, did you have a light that you used or anything like that?
Did I have a what?
A light?
No, I didn't. And so on the Facebook, the Chattanooga Facebook site, or like the page, everybody was saying that you really didn't need one because the lights from the street were helpful. And yeah, no, you need one, because when you go back into like the park area and when you're off the highway, it's dark back there. And so I found this one guy, and me and him ran through the park, and we did a bunch of our running together, and he had a headlamp. So I was trying to stay with him, and then he ended up stopping and he was cramping. So I kept going. But yeah, I would definitely tell people, like, yeah, if you're going to be somebody that's going to finish later in the day, put a headlamp in there.
Right. Because whenever I did, I didn't have one, and I can remember being on the same side of the river as Transition, and it was dark. And
it's dark. I don't know why people were saying you don't need a headlamp. You need a headlamp.
Man. So whenever you start thinking of after the sun goes down, you're on the other side of the river, on the first loop, right? Because of how everything goes, of the timing and no swim and all that fun stuff. So on the other side of the river, there's a few hills over there that are kind of tough-ish. How did these go for you?
On the first loop or the second loop?
The first loop.
They went okay. I was still able to run walkish on the first loop. Even when the sun went down, I was still kind of like, okay, I still feel okay. It wasn't until the second loop where like my stomach started hurting and where I was just like, I don't even care, I'm just done. That I, started to have like the thoughts where I'm like, I don't even care. I know I'm going to make it before the finish line. When I make it, I make it.
Right. Now, did the pad on your foot that was hurting on the bike, did it hurt on the run?
Not at all. And that's why I know it has to be something on my bike, because I was very worried on the run that, I'm like, oh my God, my foot hurts. And it seems like right after I came out of my shoe and put my running shoe on, I was okay. I mean, it was a little tender at first, but I started running, and it was, I wouldn't say running. When I started my run walk, it didn't bother me at all. So it has to be something with the bike.
How old are your cycling shoes?
A year old.
Okay. And you've used them on the previous 100-mile bike rides and no problems?
Yes. I was having like a little bit of problems with like pain, but not to like the extent that I had it on race day. And I put this insert, this like gel silicone sleeve, where the pad is. And I thought that would help. And I don't know if that made it worse or if it made a difference, but yeah, it was very painful.
Wow. Now, I know you said that you had some GI issues on the run. When did this start happening?
It started about mile 12, 13-ish. My stomach was just not happy, and I started throwing up. I had diarrhea, and it was like every few stops, like every few aid station stops, I was going to the bathroom. And finally, I was so sick. I couldn't eat or drink anything after mile 18. So from 18 to 26, I literally didn't eat or drink anything. So by the time I got to the finish line, I was super sick, and I had to get an IV at the end. Well, 2 bags of IV, because I was extremely dehydrated. Wow.
Now, for the special needs on the run, you said that you had some stuff to eat in there. Did that help at all?
No, I didn't have anything on the run. I never put. Yeah, no, not for the run, for just the bike.
Oh, okay. So from miles 15 to 20, this was a pretty rough time because you're starting to actually get ready to go on the other side of the river again. Mm-hmm. And you're having GI issues. You're not able to eat anything. And you still have way over an hour and a half left at this point.
Yep.
Mentally, this has got to be hard for you because you know these hills that are on the other side, they're just waiting for you. And they're pretty much the only thing that stands in between you and the finish line. How did you get through this?
It was honestly so hard. By mile 18 is where I was just like, I am ready to be done. And I was like, just mentally over it. And I was getting to the point where I was wanting to just start crying and just be like, I don't really know if I can do this. Like, I'm feeling so sick, and I was dry heaving. I couldn't even throw up anymore. And, you know, that's where I really, really like just had to dig deep. And I was just like, okay, why am I doing this? Like, and then, you know, I thought about why I'm really doing this. And I'm like, I couldn't say like, you know, you're doing this because your kids are waiting for you. But I said, no, my kids aren't waiting for me, but I know there's one person that's looking down at me, and I have to do it for him. And so I just like touched my bracelet, and I'm like, buddy, help me through this. And we made it. Well, I made it, but yeah.
Wow. I lost my train of thought again. Apparently that's happening. I don't know. Wow. Oh, I guess I'll edit that shit out because I don't know what my train of thought was at all. Gosh, I was thinking of something before that, and yeah, I got nothing at all. I don't know. I'm sitting here looking at these questions, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where was that? Oh, so did you partake in the chicken broth?
I only was able to do it one time because, like I said, my stomach was like just not really. So I took it because once it got dark, it's kind of like by where I started to feel kind of sick by like mile 13-ish. And then I didn't want to drink or eat anything because I was just feeling horrible. So I did have like one cup, a few sips, and that didn't help. And so I just really didn't eat or drink anything after a certain point.
Man. So whenever you get done with the last hill on the other side of the river and you start making your way back through on the wooden bridge that over the river of going back into the town of Chattanooga, how was this emotion coming back into town where you could literally hear and almost see the finish line if you know where to look?
Yes, hearing it is like, oh my God, I want to be done because you can hear them calling out names, and you know, and you hear the crowd, and I'm like, I want to be done so bad. It's like, I wonder if I just finish right now, like what would, you know, but it's like, oh God, I don't want to go back and do. And then it's like, as you keep running, it gets more and more distant, and you're more and more by yourself. And it's like, where the hell is everybody? I don't see any runners. What is going on?
Wow. Now, whenever you actually get to the point in the road just a little bit ahead of this where you can go left to the finish or go right to your second loop, how was getting to this point in the road?
There was still a lot of people out in the road where you kind of like make the turn, and, you know, they're just cheering. And so it wasn't that bad because it's just like, okay, you know, I can just suck it up and do, you know, one more lap, even though I feel like shit. But then it's like when you're coming back, there's nobody out there because everybody, I guess, is at the finish line, and you're just out there by yourself. That was like, oh my God.
Right. So the last little bit, you're actually going down a hill and then kind of up a little bit, and then you go straight again to go to the finish line. How was this experience for you?
Once you're able to hear, like when you're like, you can actually hear, that's where I started getting emotional. Like, oh my God, you know, I did it. Like, you know, thank you. And that's where you just start getting overly emotional because, you know, you're like, oh my God, all this hard work, everything I worked for, this hard, long day is like, finally, it all pays off. And that's when you're just like smiling from ear to ear because you're just like, I'm so thankful.
Wow. So you get on the red carpet. How was the finish line experience here?
It was good. There was tons of people, like, even before you get to the red carpet, there was like people all the way out to like where it starts to, they have like barriers that channel you in through like the street. And so people were like still in the street cheering you on. It was one of the longer, nicer finish lines. It was really nice. And it was just, people were giving high fives, screaming your name. It was really nice.
You say longer and nicer. What do you mean?
Well, compared to Santa Rosa, which Santa Rosa was very short, super short finish line. IMAZ was long. It was kind of long like IMAZ, where Arizona is really one like super long, straight away, and then you get to the red carpet. That's what it kind of put me in the mind frame of coming into the finish line.
So Santa Rosa's was a lot shorter, huh?
Way short. I mean, it was literally like you turn, you make this turn off the street, and they have it kind of barricaded, and then you're kind of like in the middle of downtown, or I don't even know what you're in the middle of, but it was like, usually they have a long, straightaway before you get to the long, like red carpet. And it was just, the barriers were right there. And it's like the red carpet was boom right there. And then you're like done. So it wasn't like, you don't get the nice long red carpet wave and you just kind of finish. You finish, like you make the turn, you take a few steps, and then you're like right there at the finish.
Wow. So here in Chattanooga, after you cross the finish line, what'd you do next?
My roommate was there, and she was like, "You look horrible." She's like, "You were." Well, she didn't tell me then, but she told me when we got to the house. She's like, "You are not a pale girl, and you were pale." She was like, "Yeah." She said I was like ghost white, and so I was like, "Hold on, I have to go take my picture first." And she thought that was hilarious. She was like, "Dude," she's like, "You're so gangster. You wouldn't go take a picture." And then she's like, "You're over there dry heaving." And so they took me to the medical tent, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're severely dehydrated." They say you usually only give like one bag of IV, but he gave me 2. But I still woke up the next morning with a headache. I still felt dehydrated.
Really?
Yeah.
So how was your recovery process? You said you had to drive back home and then work the next day after that, right?
Horrible. I had to drive back 10 hours by myself.
By yourself?
By myself. And I literally didn't even stop only for gas because I just wanted to just get there. My legs were cramping. I was just wanted to get there. So I stopped twice for gas and stretched my legs a little and got back on the road. So I got home after around like 1900 and came in.
Which is 7 o'clock for those that don't know.
Oh yeah, sorry. So like around 7 and, I left all my shit in the car. I'm like, dude, if they bust my windows out, cause I live in an apartment. So it's just like, I don't even care about any of the stuff. I left everything in my car and I just came in. I could barely walk. And I have stairs cause I live in a townhouse and I couldn't even walk up the stairs. I was just miserable. Took a shower and I had to be to work, by 07, so 7 o'clock in the morning. And so I didn't really get good rest. And I was just, and we don't have an elevator because it's like an older building. So every time I had to come up or down, because my battalion is downstairs, I would have to walk down the stairs and walk back up the stairs. And it was miserable. I was just in so much pain. I just didn't even want to be there. And I thought I was going to be able to leave early. I couldn't leave early. And so it was horrible. So I didn't leave until, around, 5 o'clock. So yeah, it was a long day. And, so I think recovery just took longer for me because it took about 3 days to like not have any soreness. And I think it was just because from sitting in the car and just being so stiff for so long and not being able to like rest my legs the next day, I was in a lot of pain.
Did you hop in your boots at least?
I did put my boots on, which I put them on. I didn't put them on the night that I got home because I was too tired, but I put them on the next day and that helped. And then I had a massage, I think by Thursday. And by Thursday, I was already feeling okay. And I was like, I don't necessarily need a massage, but I guess I'll get it. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah. So 3 days because by Thursday I was okay.
Okay. So looking back on it, what's something that you learned from this race experience that you would like to pass on to someone who hasn't done this race before?
Definitely train for the environment that you're in. So even if you don't have the capabilities because of like you're in an area like I am, Chicagoland, use your trainer so you can, train for elevation. There's a lot of wonderful, apps now that let you do that. I have a smart trainer, so I just didn't necessarily think about that. I was just trying to get longer rides in. That's another thing, probably getting long rides in, time on the saddle, and then run for your environment. So if it's going to be a hilly run course, even if you have to run on the treadmill, train for a hilly course. And I didn't. So I think that, that really took a lot out of my legs. So for next time, I mean, I know now what I need to do as far as training wise, and then never ever go alone again somewhere I have to drive 10 hours without somebody to help me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for first timers that are going to do this race next year, what advice would you give them?
Just follow your training plan. If you at times feel super exhausted and you can't do it, it's okay to, not beat yourself up and, take days off, and then just come back harder. Enjoy every minute of it, because honestly, this is something that we're fortunate to do. There's people that don't have, and can't do this and don't have the ability to do this. So, take it all in and enjoy the finish line. Because we're blessed to be able to do this. So just enjoy it.
Wow. So what's something that you wish you could change about your race and how it went?
I wish that I would have trained more for the run. I ran a lot, but I ran off flat. I didn't have any elevation. I think I would have did better if I would have trained for the type of running course that it was, and it just really zapped my legs. And I think I would have had a better run if it wasn't for not necessarily running hills. I ran off pretty much flat, and I think that I would have it would have benefited me to run, even if I had to run on the treadmill to get hill work in.
And that makes sense. Now, as far as a logistically challenging race venue, for you, was this logistically challenging at all?
No, this was way better than Santa Rosa. Logistically, Santa Rosa is like just set up horrible. I mean, you have the swim drop bag in one place, and you have your bike and run in another place. And for spectators, it's not very spectator friendly, and logistic wise, it's just not good. This was pretty easy. Everything was at the same location. It was nice and easy. Just drop your stuff off, and everything was super close to each other. So logistic wise, it was fine. It was one of the easier races. I don't know if it was because necessarily we didn't have the swim and we just had to worry about the bike and the run. But I thought it was logistic wise, there was no issues.
Right. Well, good. So we covered a lot about your race. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, we covered everything.
Okay. So just to kind of conclude here, what's next for you?
Next is next year I have Ironman Wisconsin planned. I want to do another one. I'm not sure what I have on the books, and then I have some ultras. I have 55K, Antelope, and I think I'm going to be doing my unit and I are going to be doing the Baton Death March. And I think maybe a 50 miler in there, and then 70.3 Hawaii. And then I don't know what else. I haven't finalized everything yet.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
And that's not even counting later this month.
Say again?
That's not even counting later this month.
This month, no. I have the Marine Corps Marathon, which was something that I wasn't going to do. I was going to defer it to next year, and I forgot to defer it. So, now I have to do it because I wasn't expecting to do a marathon 3 weeks after an Ironman. So I'm just going to go out and enjoy it. I have some friends that live out there, so I'm going to stay with them and just enjoy the race.
Wow. So what races are still on your bucket list? Being that you've been doing this just a few years now, what races are on your bucket list?
Well, Wisconsin, which I'm going to do, and then Louisville. I heard that's a really good one that I want to do and I might do next year. And then I'm thinking maybe Lake Placid or Mont Tremblant. So 2020 maybe. I might be retired by then from Ironman. I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Mont Tremblant is a really, really good race. It's like a whole week-long event that you got to get there early to be a part of the entire atmosphere. It's amazing.
I've heard so many people say that it's such a good race, and I actually have so many friends doing it, but it's only 2 weeks between Mont Tremblant and Wisconsin, so it's not something that would be feasible for me to do next year, next year.
Well, I mean, you could. I mean, there were people that did Maryland on Saturday and then did Chattanooga on Sunday.
Yes, did you hear about that? Somebody made that announcement, and we were all like, wait, did they mean they spectated or that they raced? And they finished. I was like, what the hell? We were still waiting around because I was in the med tent, but I heard they were like, and here is the guy that finished Maryland. He fucking finished, and I could not believe he did. I'm like, is he insane? How can your body even? I don't know how the hell he did that.
Logistically, it was a nightmare, and he didn't sleep in between those two.
They drove through the night.
Yeah, and he didn't sleep at all. Nobody did. There were 7 of them that did that, and none of them slept.
Was this like a dare? Was it what?
So that was the guy I interviewed about it, Julian Summers. He was not a part of the original ones that wanted to do it, or they weren't really communicating back and forth. But Matt Miller did it for cancer research. I think I could be wrong there. But
okay.
It was because someone in his family had died like when they were 50-something days old, and he wanted to do this to bring awareness and to raise money for that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, my hat's off to Matt. He did a great job out there doing that.
That was badass. Cause I'm like, and then it wasn't like it was an easy course. Like the bike for somebody that did an Ironman, the bike is challenging and the run is challenging.
Yeah.
That was badass.
Yeah. So as far as people that want to follow you, how can people follow you?
I'm on Facebook. I am Dr. Annette Melecio on Facebook, and on Instagram, I am Dr. Net 15, and that's Facebook and Instagram.
Nice. Well, I only have one more question left to wrap up the episode here, and that's, what's your definition of a perfect race?
I don't necessarily think there's a perfect race. I just think my definition of a perfect race is just being able to adapt and overcome. There's things that are going to be outside of our control, weather, like road conditions, nutrition, anything could go wrong. It's just being able to adapt and overcome. Any great race, your perfect race is a race that you finish and you can get a medal around your neck. So,
wow, that's great. So I just want to take a minute and thank you so much for spending some time with me, Annette. I've enjoyed hearing about your race and learning more about you and your journey through the sport. I've enjoyed hearing it, and I look forward to following you in the future, and I will see you here in a few weeks at the Marine Corps Marathon.
Oh.
Awesome. Have a good day, okay?
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.